I just want to say this is my first full day back in the United States Senate since the attacks on Boston, and that many here, many of my colleagues, the staff, members of the press, members of the public, have held Boston in your prayers for the last week. And on behalf of myself, on behalf of the people of the city of Boston, I want to say thank you very much. You know, it's been a hard week, but the people of Boston are fighters, and we're strong, and we will get through this. But thank you all. Director Cordray, for more than a year now, a minority in the Senate has been trying to block your nomination, trying to reopen a debate that was resolved 3 years ago. For 3 years, they tried to kill that agency, and they lost that vote 3 years ago. Then they fought to weaken the agency. They lost that fight because they didn't have the votes. And today they know they still don't have the votes to undercut the agency. So they are determined to hold your nomination hostage. It seems pretty clear what's going on here. This isn't about your qualifications or your performance. Your work has been praised by both consumer groups and by industry groups. This is about a minority that doesn't want a watchdog that will keep an eye on the big banks to make sure they don't cheat their customers. Now, why would big banks and their friends not like the consumer agency? You know, I take a look at a few of the things you've done in just the last couple of years. You've recovered nearly $500 million for consumers who were tricked by big credit card companies. You created a complaint system that has handled 91,000 complaints last year alone. You built a tool to help students and their families compare the costs of college, what you were just talking about, so they have better information when they're making a big financial commitment. You've put together a tough-as-nails office to look out for service members and military families and help protect them from financial predators, including helping service members whose homes were illegally foreclosed upon. And you issued new mortgage rules that have been widely praised as balanced and fair, and that are clamping down on the kinds of sleazy practices that cost millions of families their homes. You know, that's an extraordinary set of accomplishments for an agency that's only been around for a few years. And I think it explains why this agency is so important. I commend you in your work. I think that enforcement of the law, particularly the laws to protect consumers, to make sure that big banks follow the rules, I think that's really important. And Director Cordray, you've already proven that the consumer agency is independent and effective, that you can be fair and be tough. But before your current position, you were the head of enforcement at the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and before that, the Attorney General for the state of Ohio. So you know more than just about anyone else about strong enforcement of the laws. So in your experience as head of enforcement at CFPB and as Attorney General for Ohio, in order to enforce the law effectively, how important is it that you have adequate resources, adequate funding, and adequate information?
I would say all of those things are essential. I think if you don't have the information, you don't know what to do. If you have the information but you don't have the resources, you know what to do but you can't do it. And I think you also have to have the will to understand and be motivated by the desired result, which is people need to understand that they have to obey the law. And as I used to say when I was Attorney General of Ohio, and I feel the same way now, nobody is so high and mighty that they're above the law, and nobody is so undistinguished that the law doesn't apply to them equally with everyone else. And that's a bedrock of our society. It's been a strength of the American society and American system for more than 200 years. And we have to make sure that we maintain it. And that's part of my responsibility at this Bureau, and it's part of the Congress's responsibility as well. You pass the laws. We're supposed to enforce the laws within our jurisdiction. I take it very seriously. To me, it's a calling. I actually work closely with criminal law enforcement, police, sheriffs, prosecutors as Attorney General of Ohio, and it's a very important responsibility to keep faith with the American people that we not only have a democratic system, but we have a rule of law and that it's maintained.
Well, thank you very much, Director Cordray. I appreciate the work that you're doing and that you're out there to make sure that these large financial institutions don't just treat a fine as a cost of doing business, but that they actually change their behavior and that consumers are entering a level playing field and they have a real chance in these markets. I appreciate that. Did you want to add something? We're out of time, but did you want
to? I would just say that when you're dealing with a particular situation where there's been violation of law, there's sort of four pieces to it as I see it from the standpoint of this Bureau. Actually, there's five. There's making sure that what's being done is not done in the future, stopping it, whether it's injunctive relief or banning someone from the marketplace for a period of time, both of which we have done. It means restitution to consumers so that they're as much as possible made whole for the harm that was done them that should not have occurred because it only occurred because of a violation of the law. There are penalties that can be imposed when restitution isn't enough to sort of teach the lesson and see to it that people are deterred from doing this in the future, that they don't just feel like I got caught this time, but when I get away with it, that doesn't cost me anything. And I think finally there are cases of where criminal referrals would be appropriate, and we want to be very careful about that, but there are going to be cases of that sort.
Good. Thank you very much, Director Cordray. I'm glad you're out there fighting on behalf of consumers, and there will be those of us here who will be fighting on your behalf and on behalf of this little agency.
I appreciate that.